Minutes past 8.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Issues of the day under T-Radar.
From Hanmer Springs this morning, it is Mr. T-Radar joining us on his holiday.
Yes, not from a pool. Saving that for a little later in the day. Should go and wallow in the pools. Perhaps take a little jaunt, a little drift around the lazy river, as they call it.
So the upgrade, the upgrade is complete.
The upgrade is complete. It is, and the town seems nice and busy. Good for the tourism industry, I suppose.
Yeah.
Of course, I suppose it was Valentine's Day yesterday, so lots of couples making out in pools.
Oh, really?
Off-putting.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. But I do love those hot pools. Very healing. Did you spend some time in the Sulfur Pool?
Yes, a little bit of time in the Sulfur Pool, but it had it had substances in it. I wasn't sure what they were. It looked like bits of sort of dirt and grit, but I think I'm trottled back over there for another Sulfur Pool heal today.
Yeah.
And wonderful photographs, you know, so many great photographs from my past. There's a wonderful one of sort of two old dudes with enormous beards wallowing together in this pool with another man with a horse stands on the side and looks in. You know, obviously the sort of the original hot pool. Marvellous.
Yeah. Now, of course, it is. It is summertime and it is quite hot out there. In fact, they're saying it's the hottest month ever. I'm not sure we can say that yet, having not finished February yet. But certainly, yeah, it does seem to be quite hot. Is it warm in Hanmer?
Well, yesterday was quite chilly. It had that sort of lovely mountain coolness, that freshness. And I had to wear a sweater as I played mini golf and went around the amazing maze. And then that lovely cloud cover came over, so when you sit in the pool and there's sort of gentle mist falling on your head. Lovely. But I did look around at lots of kids there swimming. I thought, well, isn't that marvellous? Which was because I just spent the weekend reading an article, well, not the entire weekend, obviously, reading an article about the closure of all the swimming pools in schools around the country.
How many?
300 in the past decade.
Wow.
Closed. Which is, it's one of those things, unless you have something to do with the school, I suppose, you never really notice it. It just sneaks up, and then suddenly the pool's gone, and you think, oh, I thought that school used to have a pool.
I wonder if it's because they're old pools, and then they haven't had the money to get them up to scratch.
I suspect it probably is, but, you know, they released a figure, I think it was the Green Party education spokesperson, said, you know, drownings cost New Zealand $392 million a year. Quite how they figured that out, I'm not sure. I guess they have statistics for what lives cost and the cost of rescues and various other bits and pieces. But, you know, it's one of those kind of things. You think you go to school and you know, that one of those life skills you have, you get taught to swim. It's clearly not. You know, and the other thing, you know, these pools are often community assets. A lot of people can't afford to go to, you know, to commercial pools, or there aren't any in their town. And, you know, it's that great tradition, particularly out in rural areas and you know, places like that where you can sort of pay a bit of a bond, and families from the school can hire the key and go and swim in it. Lovely, part of a New Zealand tradition.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Len Brown gets on with his free public pools policy.
Yes. Well, I suspect he may take the money he was going to spend on those free public pools and use that instead to pay the Maori Statutory Board. They're, of course, off to court this morning.
Yeah.
They were turned down for their $3.9 million yesterday, I believe, at the council meeting, and then offered sort of $1.5 million or something. So they're off to go and get it all sorted out.
Why do they need so much money?
I don't know.
I mean, it might be acceptable if we knew exactly how much was required.
I think they did break it down to sort of, you know, costs and staffing and all this kind of thing, because there's quite a few of them. Their secretariat, and just I think people are sort of looking at it going, well, what exactly do you do? And, you know, again, that's probably a part of the media's fault for not explaining it carefully, because, you know, you can't expect ordinary folk to rush out there into the statutory minutes and find out, you know, read them and go, oh, I see, that's what they're supposed to do.
Much like the media hasn't really been explaining why the Greens have objected to Gillard speaking during parliamentary time. The headlines just say, Greens object to Gillard speaking in Parliament.
Yes.
As opposed to the actual reasons being.
Which I believe is they don't want him to speak just during the parliamentary session while business is being conducted. Well,
that's right. And also the absurd scenario could pop up where a rogue party member from any party could object while she was talking. Yeah, could actually stand up and interject.
Robust, you know, she says something that someone doesn't like, and no, I object. Don't come over here and with your lucky country mentality.
Yeah, so may as well just have her speaking inside the building, but not at such an important time.
Yes, it's like interrupting a business meeting, I suppose. You know, and National's very much at the moment pushing things through with urgency and all of this. Oh, there's no time. We've got to put it through with urgency, and yet they're more than happy to sort of take time out of that parliamentary schedule so some Australian woman can whittle on about what a wonderful relationship we have with them.
Exactly.
Bridgefield, yes.
Lab meat, not dog meat, but lab meat.
Lab meat. Look, every so often you suddenly see something in the media and you think, oh my God, how did this happen? And of course this one comes from the Dutch. In vitro meat grown in a lab. They're promoting it. Apparently the idea was sort of developed in the 50s and patented in about 10 years ago. But what they can do is, they're saying it's not fake meat, it's actually real meat. It's just grown in the lab, it's cultured, all the proteins and all of that are in it, and they'll say it'll be a wonderful way as we talk about the fact that we have one of the hottest months on record of apparently helping the environment.
Really?
Growing it in a lab. Can you imagine it? And I suppose they could grow it in handy sort of in squares, like in rectangles, so you don't have to have awkward sides. There wouldn't be any annoying bones to cut out.
Or
like
in the patty shape.
In a patty shape, yes. Yeah. And then the other thing would be, if it's grown in a lab and no animal has died, even though it's made from sort of stem cells, would it be okay for vegetarians? How would the vegans feel about it? It's going to, if it becomes quite popular, it's going to be quite an ethical turnaround for quite a lot of people. There'll be, vegetarian groups all around the world with their little Facebook groups debating whether or not it's going to be a revolution in food.
Would you give it a go? Would you?
Oh, I think I probably would, just out of interest.
Oh.
But then what happened if it did taste as good, if not better, than ordinary meat? Lab meat. You just kind of imagine it sort of quivering and with electrodes and it just gently jiggling like I watched a documentary the other night. I call it a documentary. It was one of those programs about grotesquely obese people, and it had to have all the sort of the remaining stuff cut off them, and they had this enormous slab of man meat. They cut off this guy's stomach and they threw it into a bowl, and they're just sitting there gently quivering like a jelly. Is it going to be like that?
It could quite well possibly be like that. It could probably go out of control and turn into this massive blob that just keeps on replicating.
Oh, imagine that. The lab's been taken over with crazy lab meat. And would they put little faces on it? Little eyes. Fake eyes.
Yeah. Unlike, perhaps if they made them look like possums, but unlike possums, which, Doc looking to find out more ways of disposing of possums?
Yes, up in Northland they're running a competition asking for people to submit recipes for their best pest pies. They say, look, possums are obviously a problem, and there's plenty of meat out there. We might as well recycle it. So what a wonderful sort of initiative. Who can make the best possum pie? There's some very good recipes for possum out there. I've eaten it. Have you eaten it?
No. How do we know it's not riddled with TB? Oh,
you can tell.
Just by looking at it?
Yeah, I think you can tell by looking. There's spots on the liver or something, as you can see. While I say you can tell, even my knowledge of it is somewhat sort of basic.
I just wonder about that. I mean, even just the early onset of TB, you might not have all the symptoms on the possum.
No, I suppose you'll have to make sure that you don't have TB-riddled meat, but, if TB, it makes it, particularly for those of us in the arts, Wammo, such as you and I, TB's always been a wonderful sort of precursor to great literary achievement. Look at Catherine Mansfield.
True.
Sure, there's the coughing and the throwing up of blood and the dying at an early age, but the work that's produced prior to that lives on forever.
Very true. On that note, T-Radar, back to holiday.
I'll go and soak in a hot pool and think about that for the rest of the day.
You go do that.
For anyone who's curious, I'll try to bring in an answer next week on how to look for TB and possums.
Will you be back at the homestead next week?
I will.
All right, we'll catch up with you then.
We'll speak again.
See ya. T-Radar, they're joining us in Hanmer Spring.